Sheikh Imran Hosein, there are news headlines everywhere about masses of refugees, mostly from Syria, but also Iraq, Afghanistan, other places, flooding into Europe. We'd like to hear your perspective. It does seem a little strange to me that they all suddenly appear at one time, although obviously they've been going on for years as well. But a greater understanding of the refugee crisis from you, please.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Morris, it's good to be talking with you again after some time. And we give praise and thanks to Allah that you have recovered from your illness and that you are in good health now. And we pray that you may continue to have good health, inshallah. I want to say first of all that this is not a flood of refugees as yet. I think this is just a trickle. I think the flood is still to come. I think the flood is still to come. And if we confine our analysis to the armed insurrection, the Zionist-sponsored armed insurrection in Syria, with ISIS and with the so-called Free Syrian Army and Al-Nusra and all of these others in their bogus jihad, terrifying the Syrian people, and forcing them to flee their homes, flee their jobs, flee everything just to save themselves from this bogus ISIS and from the wars that are still to come in Syria. If we confine our analysis to only this military part of the subject, I don't think we can anticipate what tomorrow holds in store. It's not just because of conditions of insecurity in Syria and in Afghanistan. But I think an additional factor which must be considered is the continuous descent into poverty and in some places destitution because of a bogus and fraudulent monetary system. That monetary system is sucking the wealth of mankind and bringing that wealth into Western Europe, not Eastern Europe, not Russia, not Greece, most certainly not Greece, not Bulgaria, not Armenia, not at all. It's bringing and sucking that wealth into Western Europe, into North America, and to that part of the world which is known as the West or Western civilization. They are becoming filthy rich. They're living the good life. And they're becoming constantly richer and richer, while the rest of the world is growing poorer and poorer. In Islam, we know of this monetary system as riba, or a form of usury. Money being lent on interest by a man named Shylock in Merchant Venice is not the only form of usury. There is another form of usury which can best be described as a rip-off. When you rip off people, it's a form of usury or riba. And the monetary system is doing precisely that, taking paper and making money out of thin air. And then to add insult to injury, when you make money out of thin air, which is the first time this is happening in human history, because all through human history we had money with intrinsic value. Now for the first time, with this modern Western civilization which has come from the Antichrist, and I am an eschatologist, so I know what I'm talking about. With this modern Western civilization, you're no longer permitted to use gold and silver as money. No. The Articles of Agreement of the International Monetary Fund prohibits that. Why? They will never tell you why. And instead you have this bogus monetary system. To add insult to injury, not only are they making money out of thin air, but more than that. They then lend the money to the bank, or they give the money to the banks. And the banking system, if it has only $100, can lend 1,000. They call it fractional reserve banking. So you are multiplying the hoax, the bogus system. It's been multiplied many times over. And then this money is lent because the people are poor. They want money. And there's no way you can get money except by borrowing it on interest. When they borrow the money from the banking system and they sign an agreement to repay, now it becomes legal money. Before this, it was fictitious money. Now it's part of the monetary system, the money system now. And you have to repay. You're legally obliged to repay because you signed an agreement. The Prophet Muhammad, Allah's blessings be upon him, spoke about the system of riba. And he said whether the riba is big or small, the end product is the same. The conclusion is the same. He says poverty and destitution. And I want to suggest, Maurice, that part of the reason why there is a flood, what you call a flood of refugees pouring into Western Europe, not to Russia. They're not going to Russia. They're not going to Greece. They're going to where the money is. And they know the money is not in France, it's not in Britain. The money is in Germany. You see? That's why they're going to Germany. The part of the reason for this so-called flood of refugees is because of increasing poverty, increasing destitution. If I am right, Maurice, then the rest of the world out there which is suffering in poverty and destitution, they're going to look up, open their eyes and see, oh, but this is our chance. This is our chance. The Syrians are entering into Europe. The Afghans are entering into Europe where the money is. It's our chance now to move. And so they're going to be moving out of Algeria. They're going to be moving out of Morocco. They're going to be moving out of Bangladesh and Pakistan and all of the rest of the world that is miserably poor. How are you going to stop them? Of course, you cannot allow all the world to come into Europe. So sooner or later, this so-called benevolent face of Europe is going to have to turn the other way. And I'm anticipating, Maurice, that this this rivulet is going to become a flood tomorrow. And I want to focus not so much on the armed insurrection, which we can talk about a little later, but on the ever-increasing poverty and destitution of the rest of the world, that Europe is becoming wealthy at the expense of the rest of the world.
Well, Europe has some huge GDP. I mean, also has a huge amount of unemployment. Just how Europe is garnering the money is open to question. And probably just thieving it from the poor is the best summary. But the Chinese are far more industrious. I mean, the economics of the world don't make sense. The productivity, the people employed in Europe and America are largely in the service sectors or in banking. They don't really create or produce anything.
The governments are flooded with money because they can make money out of thin air. If you can just print paper and make money, then you're going to be rich. And if the others try to print paper and make money, it's not hard currency. You can take a suitcase filled with Bangladeshi taka to Manhattan, you can't buy a cup of coffee. So it is an unjust monetary system. The one statesman who had the insight into the system and who got up and declared it to be bogus and fraudulent and unjust was President General Charles de Gaulle. He did that, I think it was in 1966 in the French National Assembly. And upon giving that speech, that was it for him. They then started plotting how to remove him. And they eventually did remove him. Okay? The next one who did it was the Prime Minister of Malaysia, Dr. Muhammad Mahathir, who is still alive. He also spoke of the fraudulent nature of the monetary system, which is enriching one part of the world at the expense of the rest of the world. All right? We in the world of Islam have a dilemma. We have more scholars today than we've ever had before. They're called the ulama, the scholars of Islam. Yet we can't find any. We cannot find any scholar of Islam who will stand up and speak coherently and intelligently and analyze the monetary system and declare it to be haram. Haram meaning it is prohibited, it is bogus, it is fraudulent. The world of Islamic scholarship Morris, has not only failed, it has failed miserably. They don't have any excuse. No, they can't say we didn't know, because they all have access to the internet now. And the information is out there in the internet. I have been lecturing on the subject for about 20 years now. Not only is this bogus and fraudulent system foisted upon us and we cannot get out of it, but now they have something called Islamic banking. And the Islamic banking is just as bogus, just as bogus. No Islamic bank, none, dares to say that the monetary system is bogus and we should return to dinar and dirham, or the gold dinar and silver dirham. Everything, little university student out there knows that, but not the scholars of Islam who support Islamic banking. And so my analysis, Morris, my initial analysis is that it is a fraudulent monetary system and a banking system that is unjust, which is impoverishing most of the rest of the world. And as a consequence of increasing poverty and destitution, we see this movement from the rest of the world into that part of the world which is the beneficiary of the monetary system, namely Germany.
Germany is industrious. There's something about the German people. The German-made products are known for their efficiency. I mean, but Germany seems to have its hands tied, and it's hard to follow its policies and understanding. I mean, it's virtually admitting all the refugees and stating it's going to change the demographics of Germany forever, and it's hard to understand why a country would choose that path.
Well, we could, for example, Morris, we could ask you, why, Morris, why can't you recognize? You're an intelligent person, you've been interviewing me for some years now. How come I can't hear you saying that, yes, I recognize this monetary system to be bogus and fraudulent, and it is part of the factor that is contributing towards increasing poverty and destitution in the rest of the world, and this has nothing to do with the industriousness of the German people. No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about the monetary system.
Well, first of all, I could not argue and say there's anything bona fide or legitimate or credible about our monetary system. I concur with you. And there are a few voices critical of the monetary system. Not all of them will go for the gold and silver, which I share your feelings, or the Islamic laws, that they have an intrinsic value. I believe that. They're cherished by cultures all over the world. But even in Cambodia, in Asia, and in Britain, there's a whole new type of money lending going on. It's called small loans, and the adverts are everywhere, and people can borrow money over the phone instantly. And I mean, it's a scandal what they do, and the interest rates are sky high. I really do agree with you about the monetary system, but it appeals to everyone, and we all need money, and I can understand that. But there's something sociological going on that perhaps is more insidious and more devious and more devastating, and the refugees are a sign of that. You're taking them out of their history, where they've actually been for millennium, in Afghanistan, in Syria. You're also, in this case, destroying Islam. It could be non-Islamic nations as well that could be the objects. But there's something insidious going on outside of the monetary issues as well, social engineering.
That's right. We can now turn to the insurrection. One does not need a PhD to recognize that these so-called warriors, Dajjal's warriors, who are flocking to Syria and to Turkey and to Iraq to join ISIS, they don't ask the question, none of them. They don't ask where the weapons are coming from, state-of-the-art weapons. Where is it coming from? No, these fools never ask that question. They have eyes and they cannot see. They have ears and they cannot hear. And I say to them that your jihad is bogus because it is financed, it is armed, it is trained by the enemies of Islam. But you can't see that. If you go there to fight and you are killed, I will not pray over your body. No. And I will never stand at your grave. Not at all. because you are going there to kill my people unjustly. The so-called Arab Spring was meant to be a cover for taking over Libya. And they succeeded in Libya because Russia failed in the Security Council. We still do not have a credible response from Russia as to why Russia acted the way that it did and sacrificed Libya. We don't have an answer from them as yet. So now Libya is a NATO state. And that's Egypt's goose is cooked now. Because when they're ready to attack Egypt, they'll attack from both east and west. And that's the end of Egypt. Because NATO is now in Libya. The Arab Spring was meant to act as a cover so that they could then also have the chance to topple the Syrian regime. And that's what they're doing now, attempting to overthrow the Syrian regime the way they did the Libyan regime. They've not succeeded as yet. No. And one of the reasons why they have not succeeded is they've not been able to attack the Syrian armed forces and the Syrian government from the air with bombing. They've been moving incrementally towards that. And then when Russia saw their plan, Russia has now intervened and put a line in the sand. Russia is going to defend Syria. It's going to be a nuclear war if you take on Russia. And so the refugee problem from Syria is of their making. They're the ones who attempted, who armed these people with this armed insurrection to overthrow the Syrian government. They're the ones who are pig-headedly pursuing this agenda of theirs. No, Assad must go, Assad must go, Assad. Well, why the hell cannot not be that Obama must go? Huh? Why must it be Assad? Why can't it be Cameron must go? Why not can it be that Holland must go? Why must it be Assad? Are you the rulers of the world? Have you been appointed as the policemen of the world? Are you the ones who are going to rule over Imran Hosein? Not at all. Get lost. Muslims are not afraid to die. Muslims are not afraid to die. And you cannot defeat the religion of Muhammad, Allah's blessings be upon you. Forget it. You can never do that. Yes, you can get all these Muslims who have eyes and cannot see to join you in ISIS and go and fight your bogus jihad. But the truth will prevail. The truth will prevail. And we are very pleased, Maurice. Actually, we are very, very pleased that Putin has now put Russia on the line. And Russian troops are in Syria, Russian aircraft, military aircraft in Syria, and Russian tanks in Syria. And we are now heading for the confrontation that we knew would always take place. We always knew it would take place. Our prophet has prophesied this. A big war that will take place in that region of the world between Damascus and Turkey. That's where it's going to take place. It's there in the prophecies of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. The United States would like to fight Libya, yes. They'd like to fight Iraq, yes. But the United States Armed Forces, they don't want to fight Russia. No. Because they know the consequences of fighting a nuclear war. And so now Russia and the United States are talking to try to avoid war, avoid a conflict. But there are those who do want a nuclear war, Maurice. In the same way that Pax Americana replaced Pax Britannica, our eschatology says that the master plan is for a Pax Judaica to replace Pax Americana, and for Israel to emerge as the ruling state in the world. And then when Israel emerges as the ruling state in the world, our eschatology tells us at that time that a man will emerge in Israel, in Jerusalem, and declare, I am the Messiah. That's the explanation of what's happening. But he would not be the Messiah. The Messiah is the son of Mary, the Virgin Mary. He would be the false Messiah, or Dajjal. But Pax Judaica cannot emerge so long as the world is as big as it is. And so long as you have these two major power blocks, the NATO power bloc and the Russian-Chinese power bloc. And so there are those who do want a nuclear war. And you can close your eyes, Morris, you can close your eyes and you can anticipate that there's going to be the mother of all false flag attacks. The mother of all false flags attacks is going to take place. And then this side will be able to blame that side, or that side will blame this side. And then the cry will come out for war, war. And they're going to get what they want. They want nuclear war. And that nuclear war must devastate the world to such an extent that what is left of the world after nuclear war would be easy for Israel to control. And that's why they want nuclear war. And the stage is now set, the pieces are being put in place, and the Russians are not going to be able to back out of Syria now. They have to come in, and more and more and more and more Russian troops. And maybe China will also intervene in Syria. And so the stage is being set now for the mother of all wars, which is about to take place.
We're just seeing the Israeli Prime Minister in Moscow at this time talking to Putin. Although the headlines say he's trying to avoid any confrontation between Israeli forces and Russian forces. I don't know if we should accept those as face value or if it's all just secrecy. Would you speculate on what the concerns are?
Both sides are shadowboxing. Both sides are shadowboxing. Israel will never tell Russia what are Israel's plans. And neither will Russia reveal to Israel what are Russia's long-term plans. So it's shadowboxing going on out there in Moscow. And we are very pleased. I am very pleased, and I'm sure many in the world of Islam are very pleased that finally Russia has a ruler, a leader, who says, we're not afraid of you. We are not afraid of you. We're not afraid of war. If you want war, you'll get war. That's what he said. Putin said, don't mess with nuclear Russia. Those were his words. And he's standing firm by his words.
Well, in this 11th hour, I want to thank you for what you've been telling me. I cannot think where to take you for more questions. I think you've rounded up our current scenario. What should we do as individuals?
What I can suggest, Maurice, is that it is time for thinking people, serious people who think, to now turn to eschatology in order to get a clearer picture of what's happening in the world, particularly Islamic eschatology and Orthodox Christian eschatology, not Western Christianity, Orthodox Christianity. I hope to travel to Belgrade soon, and I will be giving a lecture at the University of Belgrade on an introduction to Islamic eschatology. But in addition to that, we're going to be planning 2 retreats to take place in Serbia. One, an Islamic retreat on eschatology, and the other, a Christian retreat on eschatology. So when you attend both, you'll get a picture. A big picture will emerge, and I hope, Maurice, that you will find the time to come and join us there. It should be sometime in the summer of next year. But in addition to this, you have a chance. I am here in Geneva at this time. And on the 3rd of October, here in Geneva, I'll be lecturing on an introduction to Islamic eschatology. It's on the 3rd of October at 2 in the afternoon. If you go to my website, you can see where you can register for the lecture. This is my advice. It's time for thinking people to turn to eschatology, so that eschatology can explain to you the mysterious events that are unfolding in the world today.
Thank you so much, Sheikh Imran Hosein.
Thank you, Maurice, and I look forward to seeing you again.
I look forward to that very, very much.